The first one is about family weekend.
Uh-huh.
When do we find out how that went?
When do we find out how family weekend went?
Yeah, like their responses.
Oh, so it usually takes about a week and a half, 2 weeks before I get all the survey responses back. What are you thinking?
I don't know. I think some of them went well, and some of them I'm not so sure about. It's good though.
It is good. I mean, it is good. It's cool that you're really clued into it because it's great feedback to hear what people like and what they don't like.
I know I can't take it personally, but
it's helpful for me though because you'll see patterns, right? So even when I do group, some of the patterns I'll see is like I tend to focus on one person or one family, and I sometimes forget to check in with everybody else in the group, so then they start to feel like, well, he didn't focus on me. So sometimes, when I ask like, what's the best and the worst group, I'll be in both categories for the same group, actually.
Yeah.
So it's good because then it just tells me like I need to do a better job including the whole group. So stuff like that.
I did realize that so I was a part of running one of the last groups.
Yeah.
Like of all of family weekend.
Right.
And I noticed that Sierra's family was being pushed too much, and I didn't know how to stop it.
Right.
And I was like, no, don't do it. And I didn't know that they had already been pushed in pretty much every group they've been in.
Totally.
But you could just see it in their body language.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that the group I was in?
No.
Oh, were you in the group when I pushed them?
No, I wasn't.
I pushed them.
But
super hard.
Yeah. And Sierra was like, "Do you do this again?" She's like, "It's been every group." And she actually got up and walked out.
Oh, did she?
And
really?
I think that affected a lot of what had already been done that weekend.
What group were you in?
It was the shame resiliency group, I think.
Oh, who was doing it?
It was me, Jared, and Alan.
Oh, okay.
But I feel like a lot of good work was done over the weekend,
Right.
and I know that doesn't negate all the good work that was done, but that's the last experience they had in terms of groups. And so that was...
So you wonder about that?
Yeah, but it's okay. That wasn't... I was going to say it wasn't my fault, but I saw it and I didn't do anything. So I don't know if that was... What would
you have done in that moment? When you felt like they were being pushed so much or getting overwhelmed, what could you have done?
Oh, what could I have done?
Yeah.
I don't know how... I think that's what I'm still concerned about, is how do I do that without putting down the co-facilitator? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Without making them feel, not feel, but look to the group like we don't work together as a team. Which is interesting because I was in the same group as Kayla, and we had a very different relationship, right? So I interrupted her, and it wasn't
And she was good.
Yeah, and she was like, this is how we work.
Right.
Actually, Kayla said that maybe we should, if you can, that it would be good if we ran a lot more groups together.
That'd be cool.
Because we already work so well together because we're roommates, right?
Right.
And we came here together.
Yeah.
And so we actually work really well, and we flow off of each other.
Right.
Because we already have that relationship.
I like it.
Anyway, she's like, wouldn't that be cool if we could? I'm like, that would be awesome.
So it's kind of a balance, right? Because you'll work lots of groups together, but you already know you're strong with her. And so how do you build on that and also
increase with other people?
Yeah, the ones that you struggle with even, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's important. And also, I've been, that fly, crazy. This fly, lives in here. Every time I do family therapy right here, they're Sarah, goes crazy with it. She's like, leave me alone. Anyway, what were we saying? I got distracted.
So I was just saying, you and Kayla flow well together, right?
So
how can you do it with those that maybe it's harder to do?
So I think the interesting part is that I run groups weekly with those people.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And so a family weekend, running a group with her wouldn't, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Makes total sense.
And it would make sunrise look better. These therapists work so well together. Anyway.
That's awesome.
Because there were a couple of groups when I was like, I don't know what to do with this person.
Yeah, so what in those moments, what can you do?
With Sierra?
Yeah, or
just in general.
Or just when you have those moments where it's I don't know what to do. Because it is this balance between okay, I need to play this out and see where the therapist is going on the one hand, and on the other hand, how
the really hard part
Right.
is because all of the therapists here are so great that it's like what they're doing, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I respect each of the therapists here and their therapeutic style.
Right.
And so I think, like, a huge part of it is building up that confidence of saying, like, you know, maybe I actually do know what I'm doing, and I need to have, like, the confidence to be able to, like, slip in
Yeah.
and be like, well, actually, what do you think?
Nice.
And, like,
I love that.
like, move it to a different family.
I
don't know.
One thing I found that I really like, and you tell me your thought on this, is because the nice thing is with DBT you can provide the dialectic. And so on the one hand you've got the one therapist who's pushing really hard,
Yeah.
and on the other hand you can play the other role,
Like, good cover.
and even talk to Alan, because there's probably Alan that was pushing at that moment.
How did you know that?
It was obvious. So you could easily say,
it was Jeremy.
you could easily say, hey Alan, I'm wondering if you're pushing her too hard.
Yeah. And then that's also a very therapeutic thing that would happen, right?
Because other people are having those same thoughts,
Yeah.
right? You're just playing out the dialectic in front of everybody, even with your co-facilitator,
And that's good.
so they can see it. What do you think? I don't know.
Yes. I think you're asking a lot of me.
Because what's your worry if you were to do that? Because that actually the groups that I like the most, Ben's really good at that with me.
Yeah.
Ben will be like, hey, what do you know, I'll say something and he'll be like, hey, what do you mean by that? Or he'll either draw me out or kind of tell me to stop talking.
Yeah.
And even directly will do that in front of the whole group.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like, I think that's that confidence piece. I think, because I did that with Kayala and it was totally fine because we have that kind of relationship.
Right.
Like, I actually did interrupt her.
That's
and
awesome.
I was like, wait a second, Kayala.
Yeah.
What's going on here? And
Nice.
she was like, yeah, what's going on here? And she was totally fine with it.
Right. Right.
So I think the way for me to be able to do that better is to like build my confidence in those co-facilitating relationships of saying like, you know what, I actually do know what I'm doing, because Kayla treats me that way.
Right.
Kayla's like, you're a very competent therapist
Right.
and you know what you're doing.
So you already know she thinks that of you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what the others think of you.
And she's like,
right.
if you interrupt me, it's not because you think I'm wrong or because you think you're better than me,
Nice.
but just because you saw something that I didn't. And I'm not saying the other therapists would think that,
Right.
but like in my mind, we just don't have that kind of relationship yet. I could work on that.
Yeah. So how would you work on it? That's my question. Because I love it. I think you've actually like the fact that you're even knowing this about yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know that I mean, I'm just trying to think like that's a hard thing to learn right away, and you're already doing it. You know. It's cool. So that's my question. How do you?
Yeah.
Do it?
How do I do it?
Yeah.
I think it always, pretty much always right now, in like this point of my career, it always comes back to like me just being confident in my own abilities.
Right.
And of saying like, yeah, maybe they've been doing this for a year longer than you, but like it's fine.
Yeah.
Like you still know what you're doing. Or even if it's like 20 years, like you still see something
Right.
that maybe they're not attuned to because
Perfect.
their mind is someplace else.
Totally.
And that doesn't mean like they're better or you're better.
Yeah.
Like that's not an important thing to worry about.
Right.
It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I like that because realizing that you play a role and they play a role, and both are going to be different and can help each other out.
Yeah. Like there's a reason why you have co-facilitators.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I've led groups by myself, and that's really hard. Like,
To co-facilitate, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
to co-facilitate with yourself.
Right.
You like move chairs. Like what's it called? Like the show?
Yeah.
Like
No,
the
it's
show,
true.
whatever it's called. You like, okay, I'm gonna move over here. Like,
Yeah.
what am I seeing over here?
Yeah.
And it's hard. And I've been in pretty big groups that I led by myself,
Right.
like 20 people, and it was just hard to get everyone. And everyone's always upset because they're like, I didn't get to process.
Right.
Like, there are like 20 of you, maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, big groups are hard that way.
Yeah. So I think this is a great opportunity.
Cool. So how?
It's like the $1 million question. I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
Any ideas?
To
Because you do it with Kayala, right?
yeah.
So how could you do the same thing with Alan? Do you have a group with Alan every week?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so
Today actually.
how could you do the
We're
same
at
thing with that?
conference.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. What group is it?
It's Shame.
Cool.
Actually, Shame Resiliency. Well, I think he's the trickiest because I find him so intimidating.
Really?
Because he like knows so much.
Oh, he's smart. He's smart. That's
He's
true.
like perfect, pretty much. And I don't know how you like know. And I have a hard time reading him. Like a really hard time reading him, and I don't understand his therapeutic style just yet.
Where do you sit when you co-facilitate with him?
Probably not where I should.
So one of the things I've noticed that we do, you give me your thought on this,
Yeah.
is we tend to sit all like right up front.
Yeah, and that makes it weird.
Yeah, because you can't ever see each other.
Yeah.
And if you're really co-facilitating,
you should be able to.
Yeah, you could be able. It helps if you can see each other, because then you can give each other cues, right? Yeah. Yeah, or just speak up and say, "Hey, I'm noticing this," but you got their attention.
Well, I think that goes back to that confidence piece because like some of the girls there actually look older than I do. So if I'm sitting with them, I like feel like I'm blending in. Like does that make sense? Like all of a sudden I'm a client.
Like now you feel like a client because you're sitting on the couch next to them. Wow.
And that goes back to.
So even sitting with the girls would challenge your confidence or help you challenge it.
Oh, that makes me. I don't know. Yes, but I also.
Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying, but I didn't like the way you phrased it.
Give me your. What do you mean?
It's just because that's a me thing again, right? It's like. It's because you're right. You're like.
Okay. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah. I feel like I'm a lot more confident when I don't have to feel like I'm performing.
Right.
And I think that's really hard. So like my individual groups, I think, are not always led better, but they're led more confidently by me. Because I don't have to like worry about the other therapists.
What are they thinking about you?
Yeah.
Telling them stuff.
And so like I think that I do really well in individual and even family therapy.
Yeah.
And I think group is like a little bit harder for me. And I've led a lot of groups before.
Right.
Like my last job was like almost all groups because it was substance abuse.
Right.
So that's like what we did. So it's not that I'm inexperienced with groups. I think it's just different. And I think
You mean it's different co-facilitating? Sorry. Give me an idea of how you could handle it with Alan. Like when you kind of think about doing group with him, what ideas have you come up with that would help?
I think one is the idea of me actually being prepared and knowing what the subject matter is even. And that's like, I think I can definitely take responsibility for that as well. It's like, and that's one thing that I could definitely talk to him about is that idea of making sure that I know even what lesson plan we're on. Because that's happened a few times, so I'm like, I have no idea.
Right.
And I have like the manual, so if I know where we're at with lesson plan we're on, then I can at least have.
Then you feel like you can contribute at least.
Yeah, because then I can at least kind of know where we're going. And then I think like even talking to him about having like a few minutes beforehand where we're able to sit down like 20 minutes beforehand and say like, this is the information we have, here's some ideas, and I'm putting the ideas together to build off of.
I like that.
And I think that would also give me like the ability to feel like I'm involved instead of like another bystander or like another student who's like, I have no idea what's about to happen. Like let's enjoy the show. But that way I feel like I have some involvement.
Yeah, you're actually co-facilitating.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Exactly.
I like that a lot. Those are great ideas. So what about in the moment though? Let's say you're just it's turn to process at that point, and you maybe think he's going a direction or even too far, right? One direction with somebody.
Right.
How would you approach that?
Well, I really liked what you were saying before about that idea of using that dialectic. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Purposely?
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm looking for. So, like, use it on purpose, like knowing that could actually be very beneficial for the group to see. Especially that model. I always think that, like, modeling that behavior as well.
Right.
Like, not just for the group dynamic, which is really important, but also to say, like, you know what? Like, it's totally fine if people don't agree. And, like, obviously, like, that's not exactly the whole purpose behind that, doing the dialectic piece.
Sure.
But I feel like
but to see both sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're really pointing that out.
And how, like, it's okay, like, we can, not just don't agree, that's not exactly what I mean, but that we can agree differently, if that makes sense, and, like, see different perspectives, and how that can be done in, like, a respectful way, because a lot of girls try to do that in maybe, like, not a respectful
That's a great
way
point.
Towards each other, you know, or that, like, they, like, try to point out, something that maybe they don't see, but it's done more harshly.
Yeah, I really like that.
So it's like a 2-for-1.
Cool.
You know?
Yeah. So basically, you're saying I could just speak up and say, "Here's what's going on."
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And be able to provide the dialectics.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I really like.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're gonna do that today with him then?
Yes.
Awesome.
I am.
Okay. Do you want to role play it a bit?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I know you love role plays and you're always up for those. Right?
I like can't imagine anything I love more than role plays.
Totally.
In fact, me and my roommate role play often together.
Because you enjoy them so much.
Because I love them so much. We go home and we're like, what should we do? Let's role play tonight.
Yeah,
Forget Netflix.
We're role playing tonight. But in some ways it's cool because it's kind of this idea of as you work on. Because I keep coming back to, you keep raising this idea of, is it confidence versus just skill development? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually had that same thought.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I feel like the confidence is not feeling like I have the skill or the knowledge.
Right. Of what the next step is. So give me because I see in a very, like, developmentally, a very normal stage. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yes. And so it's like, okay, yeah, experience would be awesome. I'd love more experience, right? We all want more experience. And at the same time, you're self-aware, you're identifying the skills you need to work on. You just came up with great solutions for the group. And so that's why I keep coming back to, are you mixing the two at times? Where it's like, I just need confidence, when maybe it's, okay, maybe there's a confidence time experience piece, and the other side is skill development.
Maybe I just don't know what I'm doing.
Just learning, right? Like, I'm just learning. We're all learning. Yeah. And so as I work on building these skills, like, how many times have you really been co-facilitating in a group? Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah. But now look at what you're doing and look how you're trying to go about doing it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think that's a really important piece. And I do that with some of the other young therapists as well. Good. When they start to, like, beat themselves up. Because you've been doing this for, like, less than a year.
And it's so easy to just, like, confidence becomes this magical thing that you really can't grasp or understand when it, I think we give that too much weight,
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
I actually had that same thought.
That's awesome. Cool. So you have talked to other clinicians about that?
Yes. That's good. It's actually really funny.
Really?
This is the parallel process thing happening, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. What do you mean? Explain that. I
the parallel process.
Yeah.
Well, just that idea of, like, this is like, what we're talking about in here is also being translated either before or after. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It makes total sense. Because it really is this parallel process, right? As we work on it, you'll be applying it outside of here. Mm-hmm. And ultimately the goal is, how do we help what we're doing here impact our clients, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's cool. Or other clinicians.
Because it's also skill development for the clients.
Exactly. And so I wonder, it's really cool that you're saying that, actually. This idea of, I wonder how often for clients it comes up, like, I can't do it, or I'm just not capable, or it's a capability confidence issue, when it's really just about development and skill.
Yeah.
Right. And not that solves all their problems, because there's the belief aspect. How do I get them to believe that they can do it? And it's a capability issue, but that's actually really cool that you made that connection. I like it. Good insight. All right. Well, we don't want to miss our opportunity to role play, because it's exciting. So let's role play the example you gave me. Do you remember that Alan was talking with, and he was really pushing and getting a lot of resistance? So I'm trying to think how we can best role play this.
Yeah.
let's say I'm Alan. Let's just pretend we have a ghost client that's shutting down, not responding.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, is it possible? And I don't know if I can ask this of you.
Sure.
But is it okay if you are me and I'm Ellen? Because I feel like I actually learn better that way.
Okay.
When I can see it modeled.
What if we did both?
Yeah.
What if you were you first?
Oh.
And then I'll model.
Okay, we can do that.
And then I'll model maybe what I would do.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
But just like, I just learn really well that way. When
Awesome.
it's like modeled first, and then
Totally.
I'm like, I can make that my own somehow.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
that's great.
We can do both.
Okay, we'll start with you. You be you, and I'll be Alan.
Okay, but me is not that great of a clinician.
What? Oh my gosh, man! You just pulled out the confidence. No, and then we've got a ghost client. Okay.
Ghost client.
Okay. So we're sitting here in the session, right? We've started. I don't remember the exact issue, but he was pushing the client about what?
It was like a while ago. He was pushing her. I think it was that relationship piece again within the family system.
Okay.
And her like stepmom were disagreeing.
Okay. Do you remember what he said at all? And I can just say it.
It wasn't. I think it wasn't anything necessarily forceful.
Sure.
It was just like
he stayed on it, and he stayed on it, and he stayed on it.
But it was just like, no, like listen to your stepmom talk about this.
Okay.
Sean.
Okay.
Listen to Sean.
Perfect. Okay, so look, Sarah, you really need to listen to Sean on this. I think she's got a lot to say, and it's really important for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe I could say something like.
So just try it. Just go with it. Just role play. Don't try it first. Just do it.
So bad at role play.
Just do it.
Well, Alan, I think it'd be interesting to hear what Sarah has to say right now.
I agree with you, but I think we need to first hear from Sean, and then let's hear from Sierra.
You're right. I'm just kidding. See, I don't know what I would do there.
Keep going, because I like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see your point, Alan, and I also think that it would probably be good to hear from Sierra, because Sierra, you look like you're actually getting a little emotional right now, or a little frustrated. What's that about?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good we check in with her. I just know Sierra's tendency in the past is that she shuts down and gets everybody to come in and take care of her. And then...
Wait, are you being Ellen now?
Yeah, and then we focus the whole group on her. So I guess as a group, my concern is that if we just come to her while she's not being open and talking to us about what's going on, we're just going to focus on her. And now the group becomes about her versus Sean sharing what she needs to share.
That was a very logical point.
Keep going, buddy. You're doing great.
Yeah. I really like what you're saying.
Okay.
And I also feel like maybe continuing along this path will continue to have Sarah shut down, as opposed to having maybe the actual response that we would want.
Okay, so your concern is she'll just keep shutting down, and either way the group's going to end up being about her. Because she'll shut down and storm out, then we sit and focus on why she stormed out. So how could you and I, as the facilitators, help the group right now?
I don't know.
That's good. You're doing great. Yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great. You have a thought. Say your thought. You're doing it. You don't?
No.
Okay.
My thought is, you're right, Alan.
So the only other thing I could see is well, maybe we need to take a break from them and come back to them. That's the only other thought I had.
That would be really
But like, you know what, Alan? I think you're right. I worry a little bit that we're doing that right now. So could we take a break from them and come back?
Yes.
Because regardless, she's either going to storm out right now or she's going to tolerate the moment. But I don't know that us continuing to push is helping either way. What do you think?
Yeah.
Because that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I don't know.
Would you ever have a conversation like that in a group setting?
Probably not.
Really?
Because I would be like, no, you're right. Because your argument like made so much sense in my head that I was like, oh yeah, you're probably right.
So you immediately go to, he's got it figured out.
Exactly.
But I loved what you were pointing out, actually. And if you did that in a group with me, I actually would love that. Because essentially you're just pointing out kind of the overt everybody's thinking or what's going on and the rules they're following, whether they realize it or not. And you're just making them, the covert, and you're just making it overt, right?
Yeah.
To the group.
Just that idea, like, everyone already feels uncomfortable. Because everyone can see it.
Everybody sees it, everybody feels it, and we all have different perspectives, and we could go a million directions. That's the reality, right? We could continue to push, have our storm out, but we're just talking about it and predicting it and being very transparent with the group of what we're going to do. That's why I actually love what you were just doing.
Yeah.
And if you did that with me in a group, that would be...
Yeah, I totally did that on purpose.
That would be so cool. And it's helpful for the group because then we can take a break, come back, and then come back. But the group also learns to trust in terms of, because we're being very transparent with them. Mm-hmm. And then, it's not like we're trying to hide anything, but we're letting them know what we're seeing and feeling and gives them permission to do the same thing.
Yeah. I also feel like along with that, there may be like a feeling of containment.
Oh, that's a great one.
Because I know like some of the feedback that I get regarding your groups. Is that feeling of like what? Like this is out of control. But it's not out of control because you have like complete control over your group, But
maybe we're not talking about it enough, so they're not feeling as contained.
Yeah, so maybe they don't feel as contained. Yeah. So even if they had someone there to like to act as a container, even as like a reflector of saying like, oh, I noticed like.
That's a great idea.
So even if the group went exactly the same way, having someone there who felt like a container, who felt like reflecting back or like paying attention to what they're like experiencing, like that could be really beneficial, I think, for some people.
And really it comes back to playing those roles again, right? That we're both playing a role and we know how to play it and we know what role it needs to be.
And I think that's also a role I feel, not feel,
right.
F-I-L.
Right.
I think I feel that role pretty well. So I think that's one of my strengths.
That's awesome.
Is like picking up on how people are feeling and like being able to put like a word to it.
Totally.
So that would actually make sense if that were like a role that I would
That's
take.
Awesome. So what do you think?
Good.
You could you can do that with him and try. So. And I'd love to do it with you too. I think that would be
I could do it.
Really beneficial for me too. So
yeah.
Because the role I tend to play, right? And so I like that to have someone come in and play that other role.
Yeah.
And really, if we don't have that or know how to do it, the groups just aren't as beneficial, right? So I like that a lot.
And then all of my clients will love me. I'm just kidding.
Totally. Problem solved, right?
And then they'll come in and be like, oh, I'm so grateful you're my therapist.
No, I really like that. Cool. So you're going to try it with Alan today.
Mm-hmm.
And then you brought up one other thing I wanted to be sure and follow up on with you. And it was you felt like your confidence is also triggered by the past. And you talked about your supervisor, right? Mm-hmm. The supervisor you had in the past and how it feels different now.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
Yeah. Was that kind of the past part that I was understanding when you mentioned that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's mostly it. Like the very recent past.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I had a decent amount of confidence, but maybe not the skills to match it.
Okay.
And I think maybe what he did was demonstrate that I don't have the skills to match it.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like looking back, that was actually very beneficial for me.
Good point. Why?
Because like, I think it. I don't want to say that I was ever like overly confident because that's like never been my problem in life.
Right.
But just like I think that gave me the opportunity to really like take a look at myself and to be more like introspective of like, you know what, I can't just like go through life like not being proactive.
That's
like
awesome.
I need to be proactive about changing,
Right.
and I need to be proactive about doing the things that I need to do to be like the best therapist, so I can help my clients in the best way.
That's so cool.
Instead of like I'm pretty good, so I'm just gonna like keep doing what I'm doing.
So I'm just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's almost like as hard as maybe some of those experiences were, you still learn to be more proactive with it, and not maybe overly rely on that person.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Am I getting it right or no?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. No, that's great. I feel like I had similar experiences early on of like, I had a supervisor that just wasn't around at all.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we had to force him to take medical leave as a team. And then I had a consultant come in and be my supervisor and help me out a lot.
Wow, that sounds super familiar.
Yeah.
Where was that?
I was at uni, so the Neuropsychiatric Institute. But anyways, it as not ideal as that situation was, it helped me see the other side that was super beneficial, right?
Yeah.
To realize what I wanted it to be, and then also my own personal growth of, I don't always have to have someone holding my hand to get through it, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And at the same time, I was really grateful and valued supervision when I got it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't have it for a time, you know.
Yes, I agree.
So.
I think that I kind of had one of those experiences in my internship where like I showed up. This was with Utah County, so like government jobs.
Right.
Both of my internships were government positions, and like very overworked and underpaid.
Right.
And, like ridiculously so. But like my first day, they were like, "Okay, we need you to run this group," and I was like, "What?" Like, it's like you realize that I have approximately 4 months of experience.
You're like, I haven't done anything yet.
And I led only approximately like 4 group sessions in
Wow.
that time period, and they were like, "You got this." And then I like proceeded to lead a group by myself, and these were like big groups, like groups of 20.
Oh,
like,
wow.
and they're like, "Okay, you got this," and it was like a sink or swim, you know.
Right.
And I think maybe that's where that overconfidence piece was like, yeah, I know how to run groups, and it was like, yeah, I think that I have a pretty good understanding, like maybe more so than other people, than other clinicians at my like education level. But like, I still have so much that I need to learn, and that's okay.
That's awesome.
So.
Great.
Yeah.
So we'll meet next week then.